let's transition to today. Tennessee taking on Maryland. I'm like, what game are we talking about? Tennessee, Maryland, big game, very interesting game because it was a blowout in the first half. Tennessee up 34-17 over the Terps. Everyone thought it was all said and done. Then Maryland comes out, has a fantastic second half. This game ends up being a 3-point win by Tennessee. Geo, what was your biggest takeaway from Tennessee's performance, who, by the way, lost to Colorado earlier this year and has kind of come back and proven to be a true top 10 team?
Listen, my first initial reaction from watching them is they are tough. They are a very tough team. Maryland is not a soft team by any standards. If you go back and watch the game, they were screening Tennessee hard as hell on every single possession. But Tennessee continued to get over the screens. And the fact that they won that game, like they shot under 30% from the floor. They shot like 30% from three. You know, great teams just find ways to win. And they found a way to win just from playing tough and playing defense, playing physical. It was ugly, but they got it done.
So ugly, by the way. Tennessee shot 29% from the field. Maryland, 33% from the field. Kevin Sweeney, not a pretty shooting game by any means.
Yeah, it wasn't pretty. And I actually thought there was a lot to like if you were Maryland. I think this was a performance in the second half that you can build off, because I think there was a resilience about this group that was different from what we've seen in the past with some of these guys like Adante Scott and Hakeem Hart. Like those dudes just did not go away in the second half. They had every reason to. The shots were not falling. They were 2 for 24 from three and just found a way to battle. And honestly, if not for a couple calls not going their way, I know there was a big turning point, I think it was maybe 5 minutes ago, where it looked like Jameer Young got fouled and he fell over into the backcourt and they called a backcourt violation. Probably should have been a foul. There was a couple other moments like that just were the difference. And when you're trying to come back from, I think, 21 down against a team like Tennessee, it needs to, you need a couple breaks. They didn't get those breaks, but with the exception of that, I thought they played an almost flawless second half. They really defended. They battled on the glass. I was really impressed with Julian Reese on the glass. He stepped up in a major way. I know Tennessee was just sending bodies after bodies, and when he was off the floor, it didn't feel like Maryland had a chance on the boards. But I thought Maryland in the second half did a much better job and was able to hang in, especially when Reese was out there. So I thought a lot to be positive about if you're Maryland. Like that game proved to me that they can go into a grinder game in the Big Ten and hang around with some of the best teams in this conference. But at the end of the day, Tennessee's the best defense in the country. This is the type of game they're happy to play, and they found a way despite obviously not shooting the ball well themselves.
I'm with you on Julian Reese as well. He was fantastic down the stretch, like from a rebounding standpoint, but I also thought he made excellent decisions. He got into a little foul trouble, and credit Kevin Willard for keeping him in with 4 fouls. He played for a good 5 minutes, I would say, with those 4 fouls and just made an impact offensively and defensively. At all times, Tennessee had to focus on where he was on the floor.
He got a lot better. All those guys got better. Like Reese, Hart, Dante Scott, and honestly, that's a credit to Kevin Willard. I think even like preseason, I think I underestimated Kevin Willard a little bit in his player development. Like you can tell that all those guys have really been in the gym, and he's a player's coach too. Like talked about him trusting Reese in that situation. That gives Reese confidence too.
I mean, you played against these guys last year, Geo, and this is a team that was down 17 in the first half. They only put up 17 points in the first half playing against a top 10 team, but they never gave up. So there's a mindset shift as well in College Park, wouldn't you say?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And again, that's credit to Kevin Willard. I mean, he's a real intense dude, really smart coach, right? And, they're executing a lot better. They're a lot tougher on defense this year than they were last year. They're going to have a good year, right? Obviously, it's college basketball. They lost 2 games in a row, but they have that senior leadership now where I think they're going to bounce back and be fine.
You guys have had the opportunity to see, some Big Ten. At this point, you have a pretty good sample size of the different conferences between the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC. I want to put you both on the spot here. At this point in the season, who is the best conference?
I mean, I'll take the Big Ten just because I think night after night, the challenges in this league. I mean, really outside of Minnesota, who hasn't been the most competitive, like 1 through 13, this thing has been competitive. Like Nebraska won at Creighton and then was really, really tough yesterday, had a real chance to win late in that game against Purdue. Northwestern won at Breslin, which is not an easy task. They've been, I think, a little bit better than people would have anticipated. Penn State wins at Illinois. They really shoot it. Like, I just think the battles night in and night out are what separates this league. And I do think there's legit power at the top, right? Like Purdue is proven. They go to PK 85, they win. They beat Duke and Gonzaga by 37 combined points. Illinois beats Texas this week. Wisconsin deserves a lot of love. They're 2-0 in the league and has certainly been really, really good. Like I just think the Big Ten is in such a good place right now, and I just think depth wise that really sets them apart compared to some of the other top conferences in the country.
Yeah, I don't really think I have much to add to that. I mean, top to bottom, Big Ten is just a war night in and night out. And I don't think that any of the other conferences have really proven that in out of conference play so far.
We're going to get into this Iowa-Wisconsin game that had a wild finish tonight. More on the Big Ten later, but it's an interesting conversation to have because, I mean, Geo, you played in the Big Ten. The biggest knock on the Big Ten is that, hey, you always have these great regular seasons where you're beating the crap out of each other. You say you're the best conference, but then nobody can really make it past the Sweet 16. So, okay, will that be different this year? Going to be interesting to find out. Want to pivot here one moment, go to Tennessee. Again, we talked about it earlier, lost to Colorado early in the season after everyone was kind of high on them. Everyone kind of thought that maybe they were chips, not really up to snuff. But have they proven that they really are a top 10 team here to stay, Kevin?
I think they have. I mean, look, they've been utterly dominant. I mean, they beat a solid Butler team by 26 at Atlantis. They beat Kansas by 15. They've won their bye games going away. I mean, you're running through 36 against McNeese, 54 against Alcorn, 35 against Eastern Kentucky. No, that's not a murderer's row, but you watch every night. Some of these teams give tests to high major opponents, right? I mean, even the top teams in the country, and Tennessee has not been tested at all by some of these teams. I mean, they are just so overwhelming on that end of the floor. My view on the Colorado game, it was just a stinker. Like these happen, and when there's a 100%. Small sample size, I think there's a tendency to overreact. And like at the end of the day, if they lost to Colorado on a Saturday in late January when there's a gazillion other games going on and everyone else is paying attention to other things, you'd be like, oh wow, weird upset. Okay, moving on. Right. And you drop them like 3 in the rankings and no one would care. But because it was that first week, there was nothing going on. There was I think it was the only ranked game of the day. Everyone's like, I guess Tennessee sucks now. Tennessee blew out Gonzaga like 2 weeks before in a televised exhibition game. Like they're top 15 in the country. They bring everybody back. Like that team's going to be really good. And they have been. I think the difference for them since that Colorado game is that they've just gotten much more consistent play from Zakai Ziegler, who made some huge shots today. He was terrific. My
favorite player, maybe in college basketball.
He's awesome. And
he's so
great story. Yeah. Just so terrific in every way. Defensively, took care of the ball today against heavy pressure, only 1 turnover. That's huge. Like Rick Barnes really challenged Zakai Ziegler after that Colorado game. Took him out of the starting lineup. He hasn't started since, but I think his play since that game has helped turn this thing around for Tennessee after a really disappointing start of the year.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and even and going back to what I was saying before, like they've been dominant, but even today when they weren't as dominant, finding ways to win, like that's what top 10 teams do, right? When you're having an awful shooting day, nothing is going your way, how else are you going to find a way to win the game? And I mean, they did that today, and they've proven so far they are definitely a top 10 team, and I only see that going forward.
I mean, they did beat Kansas by 14.
Yeah, right.
I mean, come on, this is still a very good team about to compete in one of arguably the best conference in the country coming up here very soon. So that's going to be interesting to see how it progresses down the stretch. Before we move off topic from this game, was tonight more so a reflection of Tennessee grinding on and winning a game, or was it more so a reflection of or shooting poorly, or was Maryland's defense just that good to force Tennessee to shoot poorly?
I mean, Tennessee missed a lot of good looks at the basket during that comeback. Obviously,
in the first half too, they started off missing like every layup.
Yeah, I think Maryland's good defensively, but like Tennessee should have scored 70 today. Like they had those opportunities. I think when they watch back the film, they're like, we'll live with that shot. We live with that shot. We live with that shot. They just didn't go down.